The newest movie, Mortal Kombat II, resumes the brutality with Johnny Cage. Prior to viewing the sequel, I have seen the earliest Mortal Kombat movies and the new and improved Mortal Kombat in 2021, and what I have observed from all of them, including the second one. In this video, I will be reviewing all of them, but don't worry, these are going to be quick reviews, and most of the video will circulate on the main movie, Mortal Kombat 2. Mortal Kombat in the 90s is where it all started. You have the first one in 1995 and the sequel entitled Annihilation in 1997. Starting with the first Mortal Kombat movie, where it plays out with the original game in 1992, but with some added details from the second game, which includes two of these characters, Kitana and Reptile. To start off, aside from the fighting aspect, which is the essence of the film, the environment looks promising by the game's atmosphere, where you have Shang Tsung's island fortress, which was detailed from the game, and it also provides a setting where the main plot takes place. If I'm going to explain how immersive the film is with how the game is distinguished, overall, it was bland given to how they portrayed Mortal Kombat. To elaborate on that, the characters lack props and costume designs, where you have characters that don't look like characters from the game and some that are partial. Next is their visuals, where the VFX and CGI use made it overdone. For example, Scorpion's knife from the film is a CGI snake that shoots out from the palm of the hand, instead of something that shoots mechanically. Another example would be the creature that represents reptile. If that creature is supposed to look like a lizard, it's more like a cartoonish one. Next is how they incorporate the fight scenes in their storytelling. The main characters that are played in the film felt overpowered, or you have the villains getting defeated easily. If I were to give my takeaway for the villain, Shang Tsung, his ability is to transform into another fighter as an advantage. In the film, Shang Tsung is more on fighting, but not using his abilities as much, which makes the villains like him very weak. And lastly is the gore element of Mortal Kombat. Sadly, in this film, there is no gore. So my final review for this movie is that it was able to project the feeling of Mortal Kombat with the choreography and the atmosphere, but it is less focused on substantial depth, which can make it more appealing and narratively compelling with Mortal Kombat. And this is my final rating for the first Mortal Kombat in 1995, which is 2.5 stars out of 5. Next is their sequel, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where the film focuses on Mortal Kombat 3, which includes more characters and a more expanded atmosphere. Here is my review. In that movie, additional characters was the overall scheme, where the plot details some sequences of every character that appeared, which the film utilizes the aspect of Mortal Kombat 3. But there are more flaws that made this movie more on the game niche and ineffective with narrative depth. If I will elaborate more on the characters, they're mainly making appearances to elevate the main characters and rarely showing the strengths of each character. For example, Jax's arms are useless for combat. Ermac has no telekinesis. Shao Kahn's army felt useless in the film, and most of all, Kitana doesn't use her fans as much, even though if the film referenced it. So those characters come and go. There are more inconsistencies regards to the concept of Mortal Kombat. Aside from the same old overcomplicated VFX and bad CGI, the villain had a family conflict, which didn't reference from the game sources. So it was all made up for the plot. And lastly, no gore once again. So you will not be seeing fatalities in this film. So this film was not an improvement from its predecessor. Reasons being that the main attraction was the aesthetic and the subject matter of a fighting game, but not focus on consistent storytelling that balances the game elements and the adaptive lore. And for that, this is my final rating for this movie, which is 1.5 stars out of 5. With that being said and reviewed from my perspective of Mortal Kombat, I didn't get as much high hopes from the 90s films, since both films felt bland from their game adaptation, considering the films showcasing Mortal Kombat. Now, Mortal Kombat has reboot films in the 2020s, Mortal Kombat in 2021, and this year's Mortal Kombat 2, which both of them are directed by Simon McQuoid, and the cast members of both films are listed right here. So the remake of Mortal Kombat was presumably based from the 1995 film, but with an immersive story background and an appealing touch to it. And here is my review. Overall, there was noticeable improvements from their scope of Mortal Kombat, the character lore, and the visuals. By the characters and the lore behind it, it plays out keywords like Earthrealm and Outworld, which are two opposing worlds with different characters that rivals one another. And keywords like Shirai Ryu, which is the clan that roots with Scorpion or Hanzo Hasashi, and Lin Kuei, which is the opposing clan with Bihan or Sub-Zero. So those adaptive lore creates a lot of involvement, especially with Scorpion and Sub-Zero, because in the 1995 film, they are teammates from Outworld, which disregards their backstory. In addition, the movie now includes the character Kung Lao, other characters like Nitara, which was not in the early Mortal Kombat games, and a made-up character for the movie named Cole Young. By their visuals, there was more visuals that are clean and realistic. And now this movie has gore. Fatality. So yeah, there is fatalities in this movie. While character appearances makes up the plot, there are characters that didn't contribute as much or didn't feel powerful. One example I can give is Shang Tsung, being the most powerful in the game. In the film, he makes appearances to show up as a character, but not something that makes him powerful, as if he looks like a character that doesn't convince. By representation, it lacks emphasis with certain game elements like the battle stages or a tournament like speculation. So the plot is more on character development and a training sequence for the characters that are associated with Earthrealm destroying Outworld. And to conclude this, the movie has more to give about the appeal of Mortal Kombat. In terms of storytelling and lore emphasis, it's acceptable, but more can be said and done with some characters that makes up the conclusions from games and what the direction may be, because that's the anticipating part and the cherry on top of Mortal Kombat. But my perceptions of this movie are fair. So with that, this is my final rating for this movie, 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now, moving on to the main subject of the video, which is the newly released Mortal Kombat 2, presumably the remake of the 1997 film, but with a simpler and consistent plot with more visualization of the Mortal Kombat concept. And what better way to start off the main subject are the takeaways and analysis. If I'm going to be using three of these movies as a reference that can align and elaborate with Mortal Kombat 2, because the film is too focused on the game core and less to deliver some character and storytelling depth. For the game core, it delivers what you see in the game, like the tournament, the stages, and the character backstory. So it looks and feels immersive by its game source. To elaborate, you will hear more of the worlds from Kitana's past and the return of Scorpion, and the stages by the tournament like plot. For the characters, Johnny Cage in the remake was comedic. His character, being humorous and proud, was convincing and laughable. Also, Kitana was more appealing in the film, where she has the fans and the blue gear, unlike that generic, bland looking Kitana from the 90s. For instance, the characters and some new characters were convincing by their strengths and appealing by their features. For the story that makes the impression of depth, the story has little to detail to elaborate with their conflict or problems and the resolution of it. In other words, character development. Whereas the first movies from both years showcases more character development, and for their sequels, it's focused on the game aesthetic and brief character development. If I'm going to analyze the conflict of Johnny Cage from both movies, the 90s Johnny faces issues from the public, which they call him a fake fighter, and the 20s Johnny faces his loss of fame and recognition. But in the sense of Johnny Cage and his personal problems, it was shown briefly. By how the first movie plays out, it shows a dragon mark to indicate as the chosen one and the progress of character development. Whereas this movie didn't elaborate how and why. For character appearances, some characters that appeared in the main plot displayed limited sequences. They were meant to appear when there is a fight scene and when there are interesting moments. In the movie, I point out four, which are Baraka, Quan Chi, the Shirai Ryu guy Cole Young, and Shang Tsung again. To avoid further spoilers, all I can say is that these characters come and go. They are meant to appear, to elevate the characters, and create moments that are brief for them. With that being said, experiencing the movie was more on understanding the plot and how it convinces viewers to stay invested. That's it for this analysis. Now for my final verdict. The movie features more on the scope of Mortal Kombat, with details that are referenced from the game and experienced by play, creating a more promising image by the stunning scene designs, lore backgrounds, and action packed choreography, making the aesthetic improved and more to see. The story was mainly focused on the game display and less on the character development or comeback story emphasis, while characters appearing that are featured from 1 and 2 has resulted on them becoming useless and purposely introduced without any further continuation, leading to some details from the previous film disaligned and constant with the use of previous characters. And with that, this is my final rating for Mortal Kombat 2. 3 and 1/4 or 3.25 out of 5 stars. Okay, now that that's done, if I'm going to conclude with my reflection, there was noticeable changes along the years by how Mortal Kombat was distinguished. And according to news outlets, there is a Mortal Kombat 3 movie that is in the works right now. So we'll keep in touch with that one. As for you watching this video, I would like to ask which Mortal Kombat film do you find it promising by your perspective? Please do comment down below. And finally, to conclude this video, there is another movie-based fighting game coming soon, which is Street Fighter. So subscribe to stay tuned with that future review. And that's it for this video. Thank you for sticking around. Have a toasty day.